If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Our guest today is Natalie Blundell. Natalie's an eventing specialist, coach, trainer and competitor. She's an international 4-star 3-day event rider who's produced many horses through the levels of dressage and eventing. She's won the 1999 Adelaide 4-star. She was an Australian team member for the Trans-Tasman Championships in 1999, 2011, 2012, and was on the elite squad for Sydney Olympics, as well as being a reserve for the Australian eventing team for the World Equestrian Games in France 2014. That's a bit of a mouthful. Nat, how are you today?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Very busy.
Good. Yes. We've sort of got you at lunchtime, haven't we? Driving your car up from horses and about to go into town and get feed. Yes. So we should get.
It's always something, and then the chiropractor's coming this afternoon, and teaching a lesson later, and trying to get it all in that little small amount of time.
Well, thanks for sharing your time with us. I'm sure our listeners appreciate it. Let's start off with your favourite quote.
Well, when I was at school, our school motto said "Ad Astra, reach for the stars." So I guess that's something that I've always tried to do since I was at school, and trying to get the best as I can. And my star route would probably to try and make the Olympic Games one day. But at the moment, I've done pretty well with my career, so I'm still reaching for the stars now. Yeah.
Keep going, and I'm sure you'll get there. Nat, do you tell your students this now, reach for the stars?
Yeah, I either, if someone's coming up to me when I do some training clubs and things like that, and if they're wanting me to sign something for them, I might write Ad Astra, reach for the stars. But a lot of the time I'm just telling people to believe in themselves and trying to, do as best as they can. And then half the problem is people are too worried about what everything else is going on around them rather than just thinking to believe in themselves and just worry about their own thing.
Yep. Nat, I want you to think about going back when you first started riding, not necessarily tell us about generally how you started riding, but tell us about one of your first memories. Do you remember a particular horse, a particular time you rode, a funny event, an amusing event or a scary event? Was there anything there that you can think of that you'd like to pull out of your memory?
Yeah, I had a couple of good little ponies when I was young. I had a little black Shetland called Flicker. And Flicker sort of used to do sometimes anything he wanted to do. But at the same time, he was a great little pony. I had to make him do what he wanted to do, and because I was bossier than him, I used to get him to do what I wanted to do. But then at the same time, I think I remember one of my first one-day events. I was riding, I can't remember what it was. It might be somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, like Calcan or, I don't know. And then I was riding Flicker, and my mum was, all of a sudden she was riding this big thoroughbred called Planet, and he was an ex-steeplechaser, and he did the bolt on Mum, and she ended up pointing him towards the dam.
Oh, no.
And then that's how she stopped him. It was a bit wild. And then me on Flicker, and I just remember riding around and him bolting and me going, oh. But I think at the same day that jumping around, I think there was a hay bales on the second fence, and he stopped and ate the hay bales.
No.
So I wasn't very impressed with that. I think I was a little bit angry about that one. But I do remember I was very young. It would have been only maybe 5 or 6.
Now, from those early memories and, having the school motto of reach for the stars, were you always going to have a career with horses? Was that just something that you were always going to do, or was it a particular time that made you decide to have a career with horses?
I guess when I was at school, I was riding racehorses before school from about 14. Like I did a little bit of stable work for a stable and then got asked to do some track work for another stable just in the local area in Harden. And so I'd go and ride about 2 to 3 horses of a morning and then go to school and then ride mine in the afternoon. So I guess to start with, I just assumed racing was the only thing you could make money out of. And so when I was at school, I went to did my HSC. I was sort of thinking I was going to be maybe, had no idea really, but I was good at art or something like that. But then I got the opportunity to work for Heath and Rossi Ryan as a working student. So after a year or so of that, I realised it was the whole new avenue. I had no idea about that you could actually make money. I had coaches come to me and things like that. Jo Brady was one of my early coaches that she went through the Heath and Rossi Ryan as well, and she's the one that sort of got me into that, into there as a working student and gave me a whole new avenue of so I guess from there I've come home and after I finished with those guys and started my career.
What do you think that Heath and Rossi saw in you to offer you the job as a working student? Thinking about core skills and character traits.
I guess Heath, this amazing character. When I first met Heath, I think at one of the events, and I think Jo might have even got me into a lesson with Heath when I was about 15 and had this little thoroughbred off the track. It was quite nice. And then Heath, my eyes popped out of my head. I just couldn't believe someone that was so exuberant and positive and basically tell me then and there I was going to make the next Olympics if I trained really hard. And that's what Heath brings to anyone. Like what he saw in me, I guess, I don't know. I think he thought I was a good rider, I suppose. But I think he sort of, it's more like him making you believe. And I guess that's probably
He's like that, isn't he? Yeah.
I bring back to my students is Heath's belief that he can get anyone to do that. And coming back to me, and I guess in my similar kind of way of teaching, I don't really let up. I really try and make people go as the best of their own ability.
What about if some of your students said, I want to work in the horse industry? What would you say to them? What skills do they need to get started? Character traits? And just to get started, they don't have to be...
Look, it is hard work. Nothing's ever given to you. I don't care even if you've got money. It's still not, if you really want to be good at this sport, you have to work at it. There's no shortcuts. Some people have it easier to be able to buy good horses and things like that. But if you really, really want to do it, like that wasn't me. I was just like a kid from out the bush in a way and I had no idea. I'd never even been to a 3-day event when I left school. So I had no idea about anything really. And I mean, I knew I could ride race horses. I was good with tricky horses. I guess if they really love, it's just a passion. You've just got to be born into you really. So unless you're prepared to work hard, a lot of my students see me and go, oh, maybe I need a job.
Yes.
Because they see how hard you have to do to work to actually do it. And I don't know if a lot of kids these days, there's certainly few of them that do it, but there's not as many that want to just do all the hard work to keep going with this job.
What do you think's the best thing about working in the horse industry?
I really enjoy just the social aspect, especially eventing. I love working with animals and being outside, and I enjoy that. But it's also the people too. Like if the good people in the sport just makes it more enjoyable. That's my biggest thing. Like I do this as a sport, as a job, but I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. So I think just that really, the people, the hardworking people, the team members you're with, the committee, all the people that work to put events together. If it wasn't for any of those guys, it wouldn't be a sport.
Yep. You talked about, because you said the people, and you've already talked about Jo Brady and Heath and Rossi Ryan. Who else has influenced you, do you think? Not just someone that you met that you thought was great, but given you advice or helped you with your horses or given you something that's sort of made you change your career, change and put you in the right direction? Mm.
Yeah, well, I guess recent years I met Andrew Hoy, and he's been helping me like on and off the last few years with everything as well. Like if he comes to Australia, I get to have lessons, but I also trained with him over in the UK. And I guess what I liked about Andrew, I like the horsemanship that he showed. Like it's sort of, look, I know he wants to win, but he's not going to win at all costs. And for me, that sort of is quite important. I really, I sort of feel like I'm more of a horseman. Like, everyone has got to be tough on their horses to make them do what they want, but there's sort of at a point where you want to have horses work for you rather than you just making them do things. So so I think that just the fact that, and he's a brilliant rider as well. Like there's no doubt about that. He's amazing on a horse, and he's been doing it for a very long time. So I guess we had similar views, but he taught me a lot. A lot more about be more finesse and things like that. And I've still got so much to learn to stop anyone at the moment. So Andrew's probably in recent years being someone that's really influenced me.
Good. Now, if you had to choose one horse that's helped you with your career, who would that one horse be?
I suppose Billy Bathgate.
Okay.
He's the one that started it all.
Yep.
He was just a beautiful, very calm, quiet thoroughbred that I was very lucky to have some people in Harden spotted my talent, I suppose, and they asked me what would it take to make the Olympics, and me and my naive, I probably need a horse. And then...
but he was the one you got on the elite squad for Sydney, wasn't he?
Yes, and then we won the Adelaide 4 stars. So, so we bought him. He'd done a couple of 2 stars. He'd been with a few different riders, and I guess like no one really knew his potential. I guess he was a really nice dressage horse, but he'd also had the odd couple of stops cross country, and he probably wasn't a super careful show jumper. So, but as a schoolmaster for me, he was perfect. So, but then I guess I took him back to pre-novice because that's what I was riding at the time, and got sent up to Heath and Rossi Ryan, and went from there to 4-star and winning a 4-star in 3 years. So it was a bit of a fairy tale, really.
Okay, and do you think that's your proudest moment, is winning that 4-star on him?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely is. Like that's something, and I guess I didn't even like the weight of it. Even like the year before, I think we placed 5th, and I was like, I've placed 5th. And Heath was like, oh, well done, that's great. And I was looking at him going, I'm just going to want to win it next year. But when you're 18 and when you're 18, you just don't realise how. And then I guess once old Billy he had an injury before the Olympics, so unfortunately didn't quite make it. But then that's when I realised, and in every year since, how hard it is actually to get there. So as I said, it's sort of, you can have this fairy tale journey, and what you do learn is that it's not always a fairy tale. I don't care who you are. Things happen, and you go from the top to the bottom very quickly.
Tell us about the biggest challenge you've had, going from the top to the bottom or doing something like that. What's been your biggest challenge?
I started just trying to find horses that, I guess there was Billy, like he was a bit of an unlikely character. He wasn't, like if I probably rode him now, I'd probably think, he's not much of a jumper, but in hindsight, like just because he was so quiet and, now like I like horses a little bit more fiery and go about them and things like that. So, like I think the challenge is just trying to get back there again. I had a few nice horses, but nothing kind of made it the whole way. And then I learnt so much about managing horses' soundness and stuff. I probably had really no idea back years ago. Like, as I said, you learn as you go, and I learned on probably the best horse I've had to help to manage, maintain, and then prevent, I guess. And that's a big learning curve. And I wish I knew like then what I know now. But that's kind of how it goes. It's life and living.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like I said, that's the challenge, is getting horses back there. And even now, like I started again after coming back a few years ago from overseas after algebra, and yeah, spent the last 3 years getting horses back. And but it all takes time.
Yes, yes.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
What about for someone who says, just sort of straight out of school, put yourself back coming straight out of school, and can I come and work for you and be your working student, and I want to go to the Olympics? What advice would you give them?
I would say you have to really be prepared to, to work extremely hard. It's not like it's just thinking not just on that one horse. It's just learning about everything and just listening to people, not sort of like some people. I think they've got their own ideas, but I think they've got to realise that we've already been through all of that. And ask questions and ask people things. Don't be sort of afraid. I think for me, when I was at the centre, I didn't realise it, but I was probably more selfish than I thought I was, because I'd be the one that be putting my hand up to ride all of Heath's horses and things like that, but not doing the mucking out jobs. And I was very lucky because he let me ride all his horses when he went away, and I didn't have to do as many stables. But you've got to be prepared to do all the work. You do need to ride lots of different horses. I think the more horses you can be on, the better, just to gain experience and fitness and just ability to, like, the more you're riding, the more practice you're getting, in other words. And it'd be nice, like back years ago, and even myself now, I ride lots of green horses and things, but in an ideal world, you'd probably, if you could ride all just really nice horses, well, then you don't run into bad habits as much. But at the same time, unless you've got that sort of income behind you, you have to learn to ride all the different sort of horses to be able to keep yourself, within, so you can fund yourself, basically.
What about putting on your coach's cap when you're out at events? What's a common problem you see with people when they go cross country? Where are they picking up faults, and what could they be doing differently? Or maybe they're going out and going clear, but they're still doing something that's stopping them progressing through the grades. What's a fault that you see, and how can it be fixed?
A lot of people don't have any idea on how to ride a fence in the right way and the right balance and the rhythm and things like that. And people they rely on horses. Yeah, like you've got to try and look for a good distance. Do you know how the effect of jumping down a hill in a combination does compared to jumping up a hill? And again, like, people have just got to ask people.
If you're talking, just say you're walking someone through a course and you're talking to them about riding a combination downhill, riding a combination uphill, going through water, going over a drop jump, looking at a ditch. Just give us a couple of examples of how they're ridden differently, because you're right, because people just go, oh yeah, it's a jump, I'll just ride it. But how do they ride them differently, the different types of cross-country fences?
Yeah, well, I guess if you're going downhill to like a combination, say like a triple bar to a ditch or whatever, you want to kind of bring the horse up and really sit them on their hind end. You don't want to be letting the horse go down on the forehand and being flat and just running through your hand, because if you, and then you want to sort of be in a slightly more defensive seat, because say if you're jumping this triple bar and there's something little ditch. I'm just sort of thinking of an example at Camden. They had something like that, where you really have to sit the horse up, but then the ditch afterwards, you really need to keep your leg on to make sure the horses aren't going to be spooking, and then jump the ditch and then balance again for another vertical. But if I was riding it up the hill, I'd probably be a little bit more forward and a little bit more forward seat and a bit more positive, and trying to get the horse to jump out of their stride a little bit more. So it's not that you're setting up less, you're just setting up in a different way, you're riding more forward up the hill. Not necessarily, for me, like if it's especially a steep hill, it's not necessarily just setting up for a distance as much as just riding the rhythm and the power up the hill. And then generally, if you do that, then the distance comes to you then. But yeah, so that's basically two different ways. You really need to sit the horse on their bottom going down the hill, and then keep your leg on and a little more forward up the hill.
What about water?
Water, yeah, look, you've got to remember that water will back most of the horses off, and especially in through the water. So you want to be able to, if it's just a simple log into water, be able to keep your leg on and ride a little strongly into it. Some horses, I mean, every horse is a little bit different. Like I've got a horse that will just pretty much take the whole water jump in one stride. He just seems to always jump everything really big. And then my other horse, you just pop in like it's nothing. But still, once you land, both horses would be slightly less balanced. So you have to sort of ride them up in from the leg through the water, not land, wait for something to happen, because then you lose all power. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of land and really trying to ride that rhythm. You're riding through water, there's always that little bit of drag. So you've got to land and just keep going. And that's my advice to people, land and just keep going and get the horse in front of their leg and into the hand as quick as you can. Even if you've landed a bit unbalanced, the first thing you want to do is just kick them up in front of the leg again.
Yep. Now, you talked about a downhill combination to a ditch. If it was downhill combination to a drop, would that be any different?
Yeah, I guess you don't want to be going 100 miles an hour down to a drop as such. Not that you will be to the ditch so much, but I think I'd have the horse set up the same to the first fence, really sort of balanced, land, and then just almost check the horse again a little bit, because you sort of want a horse to just wait and assess the drop a little bit, because again, the more they launch off the ditches, it's not very good for their legs, one, and then two, you just want them to pop down, because if they just pop down nicely, then they're going to be in more of a balance to take on if there's another fence afterwards, and that's sort of going up the levels.
Yep.
Where you might just jump one fence and a drop, but then as it gets to 3 and 4 star or even 2 star, they'll be land, and they'll be a couple of strides later or 1 stride later of arrowheads. So you really want the horses just to land sort of a little short and in nicely and in a balance, so then you can sit them up and get them to look at their next obstacle.
Good. Okay, Nat, have you got a book that you'd like to recommend for our listeners, something that's going to complement their training or their cross-country training or just training in general?
It's funny because I've just been doing my level 2 coaching. I've got coaching course, and I've been reading a couple of just basic things back to the German principles of riding, and just some of the basic things like that. And I was like, that is a really good book, So I know it's only fairly basic in that one, but that was one that I quite like. Was good to read back on. I hadn't read it for 20 years.
Yes.
It was when I did my level 1.
Yeah. It's sort of like it's got some basic stuff in, but you have it there as a reference, and you can go back and read it again and again and get more out of it each time.
Just even with just knowing what a half halt really is and things like that, and then it's just even as a coach, just to remember the terminology and how, and then it sort of comes back to you, and then you can forward that on. And
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. What are you looking forward to at the moment?
I'm looking forward to seeing how far I can get these couple of 2-star horses that I've got now. I've got a little Palomino mare that I've bred, and I've bred quite a few of those over the years, but I'm keeping this one, I hope. But she's sort of 7 and has done a couple of 2-stars now, so I'm actually just looking forward to possibly doing Melbourne 2-star on her.
Yep.
I haven't done Melbourne for years, and just it kind of feels like I've had a bit of a holiday from the top level, and it's sort of been nice because it's sort of less pressure and less intense, and trying to make teams and squads and keep people happy.
Yep.
And this horse I own, so I can just do what I want when I want and things like that. But I've also got another nice 2-star horse for an owner, Rachel Stephen Smith, and he's really scopy and he feels like he could jump 4-star all day long. So it's just, he's a very long kind of horse, so he'd take him a little longer just to get him together. But yeah, like
what's
they're
his
completely
name?
opposite the two of them. Summer Rhythm.
Okay.
Summer Rhythm, yeah. So I've got Summer Rhythm and Riverside Princess. So, and I've got plenty more horses in the paddock too that are showing lots of potential, but they're the two that are kind of hitting that little bit more serious levels now, and I both feel like they're very capable of going at least to the next level and beyond. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Sort of nice to have two horses at that level again, and I've got a sort of 105 horse that's one of the O'Reilly horses, and she's close to 1-star, and I've got some really nice young homebred horses that are very fancy, but I'm struggling to have time to ride them at the moment. So just trying to earn a living doing coaching and riding people's horses. So but that's kind of how it is. But they're both very nice, and they're only 5, so they're only just starting to get a bit more serious with their work now.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all pretty fun.
All right. Now, would you be able to sum up your philosophy with horses?
Good question.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because, some people have already thought about it and they just go, oh, yeah, this is my philosophy, or, you'll find it on my website, or
I
now
think you need to, work with your horses a little. Like every horse is different, and whilst you want to achieve the same end result, is just really sort of listen to what your horse is doing, and take, you can make a plan for a horse, but they're not necessarily going to get there. There's always bumps and hurdles, so you just have to just take your time and work with that horse. And if you sort of don't rush things and let the horse let you know where it's up to and what it's ready for, then you can achieve a really good partnership and go a long way. I think in the past, if I've gone up a little quickly on something, or like I said, in my learning days, then it's always it's going to end up in tears. So I think if you just work with your horse and just put the work in the training, and you'll experience a good outcome.
Good. All right. Now, Natalie, we're going to have your contact details on horsechats.com/Natalie Blundell, or just go to horsechats.com and search for Natalie. But what's your contact details, just in case people have got a pen and ready to write this down?
Okay, if you want to text or call me, it's 0402 281 285, and I've got a website, www.natblundelleventing.com.au, and there's a contact us page there. But if you want to check out some of my things I do and price lists and things like that, training or coaching, then go ahead and have a look.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks very much for talking to us today, and hopefully we'll get you back sometime again soon so we can talk in a bit more depth about what you're doing. Thanks very much, Nat. Talk to you later. Bye.
No problems. Bye.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com, and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.